Thank you, Home Secretary. As I'm sure you're aware, there's now 7 hours of questioning and debate, which should be fun. But we have got the Home Secretary for a few more minutes. So, let's just start really with the big one. It is about pay. It is about that issue of pay rises. Why does a Home Secretary, why does a politician deserve a bigger pay rise than a police officer?
Well, I would say that's not the case, and you know I will always stand by that. That is not the case at all. Primarily,
I've got the evidence here. It absolutely is the case.
No, come on, you've just said deserves. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, I've already spoken. Steve has spoken about the processes around pay and remuneration. There is a body in government in Whitehall with the Treasury that leads on that, and I'm a voice into that. And I think, if I may say so, it is a duty upon me, but also working together to ensure that we actually get the Federation back at the table on this issue, and we continue to make the case. I believe very, very strongly in making sure the case is made. And look, Steve has just become elected. You know, we've met today properly for the first time. It is absolutely right that we come together to take that case directly to those that are driving this.
What do you think happens? I appreciate this predates your time in office as well, but question here on this very point. In 2009, a student officer would have been paid $22,000. In 2022, they're paid $24,000. In the world of politics, an MP in 2009 was paid $64,000. 2022, $84,000. He says both bodies have an independent pay body. Why is yours better than ours?
Well, look, I can't answer that question, and I'm not even going to try to answer that question, right? So. We might want to flip the panels round, actually, on those pay bodies. You might get a different outcome. Those panels are separate and they're different. So, you know, if I may say so, they're not necessarily comparable because they're looking at different things. But I think when it comes to public sector pay, which obviously has a different process, and, you know, we've spoken about pensionable age as well, all those factors are taken into consideration. So for us, we've got to come together and we've got to find solutions to this. And the first starting point on that is effectively that dialogue with the Commission, which obviously has not taken place for some time.
And Steve, this is, it's always been a clearly forefront issue, pay. Right now, I mean, it's never been more front and centre. Cost of living issues, you mentioned officers, food banks, things you thought you'd never have to say. The Home Secretary has said, you know, it's about dialogue, getting together. What happens next? What is the process where you can get to a stage where you can get one of those tasty old hikes like the MPs do over there?
I really do wish we could. For me, it's about engagement, it's about talking. We've had a preliminary meeting already to discuss the way forward. It's about, to me, to demonstrate the voice of the police officers across this country, to show the hardship they're in, and try to convince you, the Chancellor, the Prime Minister, of the real need for a proper pay rise above inflation. Ideally, I'd like to get us back to, let's reclaim the 20% which we've lost, and above inflation. That would be good. But we have to be realistic.
A point, Home Secretary, as well on new recruits, 20,000 officers. Is that on target?
So it is on target, and if I can, I mean, you've just had me speak, but I'd just like to reflect on a couple of things, actually. You know, recruiting 20,000 police officers has been just an incredible experience, actually. We've had, I mean, the number of applications we've had, I mean, we're well in excess of something like over 150,000 applicants coming forward to join policing, which I think actually is a testimony to policing as a career, but also the great opportunities that it brings. So we now have 13,576 across England and Wales. We are on target, but recruitment is only one part of the story. Retention is absolutely crucial, and we made some changes actually during the pandemic, and Steve and others will know about this. I did not want to lose officers, you know, who are moving on, looking to retire during the pandemic. So we actually changed some of their pension arrangements so we could keep them for longer. So there are all sorts of things that we are doing because recruitment is fantastic. That is a great, I mean, it's a great thing, it really is. You know, we're seeing more community police officers, town teams back, rural policing teams. That's really important in terms of public confidence and visibility. But also we want to retain the skill set, right? We need to continue to retain the skill sets of our very established, experienced officers. There might be one or two here, you know, so that we can absolutely play back that reverse mentoring as I was referring to in my comments.
Question in from Nikki, who says the government is proud of its target of recruiting 20,000 officers as part of the Uplift programme. Why is it looking at penalising forces by fining them if the target is not achieved? Would extending the time frame not be more beneficial?
It's counterproductive to fine police forces, obviously, because it's all public money that would just get recycled. Look, we are, number one, we're on target. I shouldn't really say this, but I'd be more ambitious and go further in terms of what we could do for, recruitment rounds and things of that nature. We have a framework. I'm sorry to say this, folks, but it's a framework when it comes to recruitment and funding that is governed by the Treasury, because obviously we've put £17 billion into policing, and that covers uplift, it covers investment, the money that's going into the college, professional development, all these types of things. And obviously it's linked to a spending round and a spending cycle, so we have frameworks around that.
So it's Rish's fault?
It's not. No. I mean, this is
I knew there was something odd about that man.
No, it's Treasury red books. That's,
of course.
It's the spending rounds that we go through.
We've got some questions on the microphones. Can we start over at the top there? Forgive me, I can't quite see, but I think there's somebody.
Home Secretary. Phil Matthews, National Board Member of the Police Federation.
Hi, Phil.
I also have the pleasure of being chair of our Conduct and Performance Subcommittee and asked this question on behalf of that subcommittee. You've heard from our chair about the pressure and stress that officers are put under from extended, prolonged investigations. Now, we've been trying for quite a long time to get that rectified. We put forward suggestions. We had an amendment to the regulations written by an eminent barrister so that it would save the government the effort of doing it. We had that cross-party support through the House of Commons. We had it added to the Police Crime Courts and Sentencing Bill, and it was removed. It then went to the Lords. We again got cross-party support in the Lords and had that amendment re-added by Lord Hogan-Howe. The Minister in the Lords promised Lord Hogan-Howe that the government would engage with us on the subject and would look at the issue. So on that promise, he withdrew that from the bill. We have not had that engagement from the Home Office, from yourself or Mr Molehouse, and it's a really simple fix that will save a lot of time, money and damaged officers. When can we get that discussion with you about getting that amendment to make sure our members are treated fairly and in a more timely manner?
Well, I'm very happy to... So, Joel, thank you for your question. And of course, the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts bill that you referred to has only just gone through Parliament and become an act. So we're now back in Parliament, obviously third session, so be very, very happy to meet and discuss this further, which is Susan Williams, Baroness Williams, who made that commitment in the House of Lords to look at this further, and that's exactly what we'll do.
Question on over this?
Hi, yes, Rich Cook from West Midlands Police. Home Secretary, our members have had their pay absolutely slashed. We've had our pensions ripped up over the last few years by your government, and I do welcome some of the words today, particularly around stop and search, but it's about time you and your colleagues put your money where your mouth is and did something about the terrible state that our colleagues are finding themselves in.
So just on pay, I've already, I mean, we've touched on this already. I completely hear what you say, and obviously Steve and I need to have this conversation. We've formally met literally first time today, but it is about coming together on that pay debate. We have not had that discussion. So this is where we need to come together. And clearly, Steve has said this very, very sharply today, that this is the issue where we have to start working together. And that is why we have, obviously, the Remuneration Committee. We've got to actually get our voices back in there.
Is this just about you and Steve having a chat?
Because currently, let's be quite clear about this.
Because we can hang around for 20 minutes.
The Federation's voice has not been there around the table. No, because the Federation's voice has not been at the table, and that has been the problem.
Yeah.
So we've got to restart that. We absolutely do need to restart that.
Steve, the Federation's voice hasn't been at the table.
It's something we need to consider. We need to make sure that any invitation back to the PRRB gives us credibility, it gives us a voice. What we're looking for, ideally, is binding arbitration to make sure that whatever comes out of the PRRB is binding on government, because your remit letter sets the tone. We put all our submissions forward, all our member surveys, evidence back everything we give, and yet we see nothing back. It's really important to get us at the table. We need something to hold us at the table to make sure we're going to be listened to properly and it holds the government to account.
When you say the Federation haven't been at the table, I've been chairing these conferences for some years. Theresa May, Amber Rudd, Sajid Javid, I'm sure I've forgotten a few in there as well, and yourself. This has come up every single time. Yeah. It's the number one on the agenda.
No, it has. I mean, look, we're very honest about this, right? And we should be. This isn't a case
you said the Federation haven't been at the table.
No, I'm speaking recently. Obviously, I'm putting it within the context, the current context, because that is important to recognise that. And there have been changes, obviously, around the current context and why the Federation has not engaged. So that is, I mean, look, Steve has just come in. We are literally at the stage now where we have to find a resolution around, as Steve has said, these issues, arbitration being one of them, the type of evidence that is brought forward, the case that is being made. That doesn't come together just overnight. You know, we have to work through that. You've heard me all say this very clearly today. I'm very committed to doing that. But, you know, we have to do this together. We have to present that case to government, to the committee, and that is what I'm very happy to do, working with Steve.
Question here from Craig, who says, Home Secretary, given that many of the new recruits entering policing via the degree programme, 3-year apprenticeship, openly admit their intention to leave once they've gained that degree, is it the right approach to police constable recruitment?
Well, I haven't heard that. I'll be very clear. I've met a lot of them. I have met a lot of them around the country. And they themselves are very focused on their professional development and also what policing, you know, what they'll contribute to policing. And also the fact that they get the chance to come into policing, have that investment in them, absolutely. Okay. And then obviously they can start to move up the ranks. So they see this as a career. And that's certainly the feedback that I've had.
We do have time for a few more questions on this side firstly.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Home Secretary. I'm Detective Constable Vicky Knight from the North Wales Police. I would like to ask you if, for whatever reason, your husband couldn't work anymore and you were left to provide for your family, could you survive with your family on £1,200 a month?
What about if I may...
Sorry. What about £1,400 a month?
Could you survive on £1,400 a month?
Well, look, we've been discussing pay, and I think just on pay and conditions, you know, that is something that I've said that I'm committed to working with Steve on and how we pursue that and take that forward.
Okay, so I have 23 years police service, and to put it into perspective, after I've paid my professional subscriptions and my pension, I take home £2,300 a month. I work overtime twice a month to try to make ends meet. I'm a single parent, like yourself. I've got a young son at home. Because our wages are measured before our pension's taken out, I get no free seasonal dinners, I get no bus pass to school, I got no school uniform tokens. The only help that I get is my child family allowance. Apart from that, I'm on my own. Now, this month was a 5-weekend month. And so we didn't get paid until 12 o'clock on Sunday. On Saturday, I went to my mother's house where she gave me £40 so that on Sunday I could put petrol in the car and buy food for my son's school lunches because I had no money left at the end of the month. Now, I work in child protection and vulnerable adults with the most vulnerable members of our community, and I love my job. However, if the rate of interest goes up and I can't pay my mortgage and I can't pay the fuel, I'm not going to be able to continue to come to work. I went to see an accountant, and the advice was, leave the police, work for 22 hours a week, and claim benefits, and you will be better off. How can that be right? How can that be right? I get paid a couple of £100 a month more than the workers in McDonald's flipping burgers, and I get paid less than my local manager at Lidl.
Okay,
and I work in the most terrible of circumstances. And my question to you, I tell this story not because I'm here for sympathy. I just want to be heard. I stand here to represent myself and many people in the force that are like me. We are desperately struggling to do the job that we love and to make ends meet at home. And we need you to be on our team and to help us, to represent us at these bodies, to get us a fair pay.
Something has... I know we are very short of time, but something, Home Secretary, has gone very wrong when an officer who's done over 2 decades in this job is in those circumstances.
No,
something is broken.
Right. No, of course, and actually just say thank you, and thank you for sharing your story and your circumstances with me, with all of us. And actually, I think it really illustrates so strongly and powerfully, you know, why we need to actually find solutions to pay issues and actually give you the support that you rightly deserve. You know, 2 decades in policing, your professionalism, your dedication to public service, and actually you've just said something else as well, working with the type of people, young people, vulnerable people, the very people that we have a duty and a responsibility to protect. So this is why we have to come together. This is actually why I'm here today as well. This isn't, you know, a moment of just calm and, you know, just listen a bit. We have to move this forward. You have that commitment from me. You absolutely do. And as I've said, Steve and I have come together today for the first time. We've got a job of work to do. I'll be very candid about that. It's not straightforward.
So this is a new chapter.
Well,
so you feel like today, right now,
I think first of all it should be. But I am a call a spade type person. None of this is straightforward, and none of this will materialise overnight. But you know, you absolutely have it from me in terms of my responsibility and duty to you to ensure that we can drive this forward, and that is a commitment that I give you.
I've been told that we have to wrap up. Just one very final question, Home Secretary. As the Home Secretary, what would you say personally is your biggest contribution to policing?
So I feel very strongly about policing, and actually not just being a voice, but standing up for policing. I will be. But
so far, 3 years in the job, what is your biggest contribution?
I think it is absolutely that, being a voice for policing. I'm afraid, you know, previous governments and all the rest of it has not been as vocal, and that comes down to, yes, the money, investing in policing, giving you the legislation, the tools, the resources that you need, but also the protection. I remember literally my first 3 days as Home Secretary. In fact, I think my first visit was to the West Midlands, very much speaking about protecting our police officers and the police covenant. You know, so absolutely, not just being there for you, but standing with you in the most difficult times, challenging times. That actually just is part of who I am.
So you support the police fully, you said it 3 or 4 times in the speech. What would you say you've actually done?
Well, it is with that, though, bringing about that changes. The money that's gone into policing, professionalism, changes at the college, police covenant, these are the tangible things that have made a difference.
We reconvene in a year. We will see. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Home Secretary, the Right Honourable Priti Patel. Thank you, Home Secretary. Thank you, Steve. I think you can go off now, yeah. We are taking